Hello, and welcome to the Irish Cage podcast.
Well, Dave.
How you all doing, fellas? Full house tonight.
Yeah, indeed.
Full house tonight.
Oh,
On
it's
a
a
Friday
full,
evening.
It's a full house on a Friday evening, Dave. How
Indeed
you getting
it is.
on?
Jasper.
How was work, Christopher?
It was shade.
Fair enough. Aye, so we're in the Friday night. Dave's just out of work. We're going to be covering our nerd culture section this evening, I believe. We're going to be doing a little bit of TV for the lads.
We are indeed.
Um,
This should be a good.
This should
Like.
be an interesting one. We've kind of kept this one a bit secret from each other. We haven't informed each other of what we're covering. I think none of us are doing the same thing.
Hopefully not.
We sort of let each other know enough, but not too much to
Give
see
away
to
anything?
give away anything. Aye.
Yeah.
This one is. I think this was Dean's idea, wasn't it? Our good friend Dean.
Aye, Dean Hodgett.
Aye.
Shout out to our good friend. Yes,
Aye.
he
Good idea, Dean.
we put an idea or just pitched it out to the listeners there, and obviously a lot of our close friends have come back to us with a lot of suggestions. In fact, there's been an awful lot of good suggestions which we've had to sort of put on hold because we only do one per week on
You
the.
do a wee bit of back burner in there, but I
Aye.
think Dean actually put it forward as best movie side character. Basically what we're doing tonight is we're going to do a TV side character that deserves their own sort of either prequel or
Series
or
spin-off.
spin-off,
Kind of like in Better Call Saul, Breaking Bad
Yeah.
mold, or
pretty much. So I think Dean said movie, but we've done a few movies recently,
Yes.
so we're gonna do this probably for movies as well, but we're doing TV tonight. And aye, Vesty, I think did Potterborn just scored, Vesty?
That's Mallorca, boy.
That's
It's 3-3, like.
that's let down, lad.
Ah, well, that's just.
Middle of a
cashed
pod,
out when you had the chance.
middle of a podcast,
Well,
and
it's
just checking
still-
football scores.
Yeah, that's
Good level of commitment, Aidan.
professionalism.
Have to make money some way, like.
Give us your money. Is this subliminal messaging, Vesty? Is it?
No.
Right, we'll make it into it then. So, yeah, best side character that deserves their own TV series. Which one of y'all want to start?
I'll kick us off on this one then.
Oh,
So that's
no,
You
you
love
love
going first.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have guessed that.
Lads, if you're not first, you're obviously last.
I usually be the one to end up being going last in this carry on. Is this
Well,
the...
we could go from me to you and then.
We can do whatever.
Right.
Aye.
Or do you
Go
want to
ahead.
go first, David?
No, it's alright. Go ahead, Vesty. Open us up there, big man.
Fair enough. Well, boys, I have went. Drumroll. Dun, 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 dun.
I'm excited.
I have went for The Office.
Of course you went for the Office. I called this 2 days ago. You went for the
Yeah,
Office.
I've went for the US version of The Office.
Okay.
And my character is Dwight Schrute.
The
He's-
guy with the glasses.
Yes,
Yeah.
he's played by Rainn Wilson.
Never actually watched the US version. I've
It's
watched the UK version.
Absolutely brilliant. Like, it's so good. I didn't watch it till like a couple of years ago there. I actually binge watched it when I was over at uni. It's absolutely class. I just love it. It's like Steve Carell is kind of like the main
character.
the main guy in it, like, and he plays like the manager in this paper company which is called Dunder Mifflin, which is based in Scranton, Pennsylvania. So like he,
Has any of the rest of us
Not as
actually
good as
watched it?
not as good as the Office and
has
Slough, but you
recommended
know.
it to me
That-
several times.
no, it's
before.
it's way better.
Aye, the Slough Office. Don't you be slagging the Slough Office?
I've watched both, and the US version is far better.
But you have a weird taste in comedy, although I do know that this is meant to be a good TV show, but you have a very
Absolutely
odd taste in comedy.
no,
do.
no,
You
Just-
do, like.
no.
I can atone to that.
Aye.
These
Go
are all
ahead,
just,
back into
very
your-
strange people. Basically, the plot. I'll just talk a bit about The Office. The Office is basically about they sell. It's a business that sells paper. It's a paper distribution. Say what I'm going to say there, because
Good words, Vesty.
Aye.
I'm leaving that all,
Yeah.
and I'm not editing
I
any of
know,
that
I know
out.
you will. Well, basically, they're a paper company and they sell it to like clients all around the US.
Yep.
Basically, if any of you have watched it, maybe I don't know. No, Dev, you've watched the UK version.
That's the Ricky Gervais one.
Very
Aye.
good, aye.
It's basically like the show's almost like they're having like a crew filming, film crew, and they're actually like videoing around the office of like a day-to-day sort of
What's happening?
what's happening.
See, I haven't seen much of it, but I've seen bits and pieces. Like,
Aye.
aye.
So that's why like whenever you're watching it, you see like the characters in the show looking at the camera and sort of saying.
They're breaking the fourth wall.
Aye.
Yeah.
So
Aye.
basically, there's a film crew and interviewing them, or not interviewing them, but sort of like filming every day of what goes on. So yeah, as I say, Steve Carell is the main character in this. Although there's quite a few good characters in this, obviously, like as supporters, if you like. There's like Ed Helm, he's in it. The guy from he's in
The Hangover.
The Hangover,
Yeah.
aye.
Ah, yeah.
and your other fella as well. He's quite big now, John Krasinski.
Right. Who's
Yeah,
he now?
he was in. Do you know that Quiet Place film that came out there with Emily Blunt? It's
I think I've seen it advertised. Haven't watched it.
it's actually pretty good.
He's a real good character in it.
Yeah.
So basically, they're all in the office. Michael, who's played by Steve Carell, he's the manager, and he's kind of like, he means well, but he's kind of like, a bit ditzy, if you know what I mean. He can't really pick up on like if there's tension in the room or something, or if it's like a real bad situation. He's real cringeworthy, like.
Yeah.
Rip off of Ricky Gervais. What?
It's Ricky Gervais's show that he gives to the ES. What are you trying to say here? Like, there's nothing like mental going on here. Like, they're not aware of. It's Ricky Gervais's.
Is it literally just the exact same as the UK one then, except American?
Aye, but like they've sort of like made it a bit more crazy, if you know what I mean. They've made it a bit more.
I just know the parkour episode.
Oh, aye.
Parkour.
Parkour!
That's pretty good.
So I'll get into why.
You want this guy to have his
I
own
want
series?
I want Dwight to have his own series because there's so much going on with Dwight here. Like,
I'm picturing him right. He is the guy with the glasses, isn't he?
yeah, and he's
okay.
like, what's the right way of terming
Center
it? He's got like the curtain coming down either side of his forehead.
He's a strange looking fella.
Aye. The guy that plays him, Rainn Wilson's absolutely brilliant. So basically, there's Dwight, and then there's Jim, who's played by John Krasinski. Jim and Pam, who's a receptionist, they are like very friendly, but they're kind of flirty with each other in the early days, which
Right.
leads on to things later in the series. But them two sort of like play tricks on Dwight, and Dwight is quite gullible. He's quite gullible, and
Seems like an idiot.
he'll bite on whatever's going on.
Aye.
So he thinks himself as quite superior to his co-workers. And as I said, he is also quite gullible and often tends to be the brunt of the joke at the end of the day.
Acts smarter than he is, kind of thing. Okay, right.
But he is a competent salesman, and he is very successful in his job, and he's very good at what he does.
Yeah.
He tends to look up to Steve Carell's character Michael because he's the manager. He thinks of himself as the assistant regional manager, but
He's like the blonde guy from the UK one. The similar sort of character. And
yeah, aye, that's played by, what do you call him? He's I can't mind his name. You know him if you see him. But anyway, he's more or less the same portray as him.
yeah.
So he looks up to Michael, and he likes to think himself as the
Right-hand man.
the assistant regional manager. But whenever Michael says no, you are assistant to the regional manager. So
right, fair enough, yeah. Okay.
So
this is very. I had called this early doors that you were.
Oh, you
picking
did,
opposite,
aye.
And this is very much your type of. TV
Oh,
series.
I love it. Dwight is also, like, as I say, he's quite gullible, and on occasion has been called out for not knowing who Justin Bieber is.
Right.
So whenever like they're talking about Justin Bieber, on one occasion Jim says to him, "Just ring and say you're Justin Bieber's manager," and Dwight says back to him, "Who's Justice Beaver?" To which Jim says he's a crime fighting beaver.
This is definitely your type of
Oh,
humor.
So a wee bit of background about what he does. He was actually formerly a voluntary sheriff deputy, but he was forced to step down because he tends to get involved in, like, with Michael. He looks up to, but Michael drags him into, like, cringy situations where, like, they have trouble getting out of, and, like, that's him licking up to Michael in a way, like getting him out of these tricky situations. So on one occasion he was actually forced to step down for his voluntary position as a deputy sheriff because Michael was due to take a drugs test, and Dwight offered him a urine sample so he could pass. So he felt he sort of disrespected the badge of voluntary sheriff and gave it up. He lives on a beet farm with his cousins. And
I'm having more fun listening to Bessie tell the story of this than I would have watching the show.
He also claims to recall his own birth. And he claims that there's a tradition in his family that the youngest child raises the other kids. So Dwight's quite a unique character, like.
For your spin-off, are you looking to go back to prequel time?
Well, you never know.
Go back to the sheriff job.
Anything's possible here. He's also claimed to have shot a werewolf, which actually was a dog. But he's also went on record to state that he doesn't believe in werewolves. So he's also like, he also owns a really wide range of weapons,
Right.
such as crossbows.
The picture that you're painting of this character is completely the exact opposite of what I thought he was going to
Oh
be.
no, you need to watch this, lads. You need to watch this, obviously.
Alright, fair enough.
He owns a wide range of weapons such as crossbows, paintball equipment, spud guns, blow darts, and rifles with scopes on it. He's also worked, as he works in the office, he claims, which he actually has, weapons hidden around the office, such as nunchucks, throwing stars, stun guns, brass knuckles, and pepper spray. On one occasion, when Jim and Pam have mentioned earlier, they're like having like a wee sort of work flirt thing going on. Whenever she has a boyfriend, but the relationship between her and the boyfriend's kind of like strained, you know, they don't really connect. He actually works downstairs in like where they distribute all the equipment, the paper.
Charlie Kelly's job and yeah.
He's so he comes up the odd time to the office to chat to her or whatever. On one occasion, he picked up like he was, you know, that Jim had been flirting, so he came upstairs and he came up and he actually attacked him. He went to come and punch him, but
It just seems like the dopiest character imaginable, and now he's a complete lunatic.
but so like Jim and Dwight have a you know, they prank each other and like they sort of hit each other, but they kind of like, you know, like each other's banter at the same time. But on this occasion where Jim was being attacked by Pam's boyfriend, Dwight stood up and pepper sprayed him right in the face. And whenever Jim was quite taken aback by it, he went to thank Dwight at the end of the day. But to which Dwight responded by saying, "I don't accept your gratitude, as citizens do not accept prizes for being citizens." So
I'm really interested in this wee sort of notepad thing that you've got going on here tonight, Bestie.
That's
You've stapled together three like A2 or what are they, A5
A3.
pages or something.
that's handy, like. He claims to be.
Oh, I'm sorry. A5. What am I talking about?
You're the artist here, god damn it, Tom.
God, man. He claims
What the
to
hell
be.
accent was that?
I'm getting into that US frame of
Alright,
mind.
fair
Like.
enough.
He claims to be an expert at framing people, and he's also claimed that like he's framed a beaver that's like opened like Christmas presents. So in one episode where like Toby's kind of like, you know, in our terms HR, and what's the American term for HR? It's kind of like
HR.
or whatever it is. So Toby
HR.
works.
I think it's HR.
Well, fair enough. So Toby works in the HR department in the office, and like Michael hates him. He can't stand him.
Okay.
And there was an episode where they tried to frame Toby. So whenever Dwight was helping him, Michael, in this scheme, he says it's better to imprison 1,000 innocent men than that one guilty man roam free. There's a woman called Angela in the office to which Dwight has a romantic relationship with. And they work by code names in the office, so like, you know, they're not detected as in the romance that they have. Jim actually catches them out as he's at the end of the day after a working shift, where he comes out of the office, he comes out of the bathroom rather, and catches them making out. So that sort of blows that whole cover up. Later on, as you know, things tend to become known that Angela and Dwight have a bit of a thing going on, low key. Angela actually asks Dwight to look after her sick cat Sprinkles. But Dwight feels he should kill the cat as an act of, you know, it's a waste of resources. So after he went to take care of the cat, he told Angela it was dead when he arrived. She finds out afterwards what really happened. She breaks up with him, and then he takes the news quite badly, and like he sort of goes into a bit of a meltdown after for like a couple of episodes. But this leads to later on where she's actually seeing another fella and they get engaged. Dwight becomes a wee bit jealous, and they're actually caught having sex at the end of that episode. But a wee while later on, he approaches Angela and asks him to bear him a child. And
This is very Charlie Kelly and the Waiters.
Yeah.
Carry on here.
he asked her to follow a strict eating guideline, and they set up an agreed contract. Soon after this, he loses interest in her, because he's sort of crazy in love with this girl who's actually a friend of Pam's. So he ends up losing interest in Angela, and she actually takes him to court with the contract, and it's viable that he can be sued for $30,000. So in a way to get out of it, he agrees that they'll have 5 sex sessions to, you know, have this kid. To which Angela obviously agrees, but Dwight later on tends to basically butcher his own genitals to fight off any sexual urge he has for her, and whenever she makes a move on him, he fends her off, so he gets out of it. So he's a unique character. Some of the incidents in the office is brilliant. You've all bound to have seen the fire drill.
I've seen the fire drill episode.
The fire drill is brilliant. So basically what happens is he wasn't taken seriously when he was doing a fire drill presentation, and claims that PowerPoint was too boring for them to concentrate on. So he goes around the office, gets like a blowtorch and heats up all the door handles. Then he goes into one of those small wee closets and puts a paper bin on fire. And, you know, he's sitting in the office and he keeps looking at the camera as if to say, any minute now, you know. The smoke comes onto the door and nobody notices. And then he's going like, and next thing Pam's like, oh my God, there's a fire. And he goes, oh my God, there's a fire. What do we do? What's the procedure? And then everybody's panicking. And Megan comes out, oh my God, what's the procedure? No. The whole thing's kicking off, like, to which it goes mental from there. Like, the office.
He actually creates, he was running a fire drill, but like, instead of actually, you know, having a dummy run, he creates a real life fire in an actual situation.
There's like people that are like, you know, the doors are all, he breaks the lock so they can't get out. And then like there's a big guy in a cabin, he kicks open like one of the vending machines so we can take all the crisps and like, you know, sweets and all, whilst they're getting like this paper photocopier, they're trying to ram the door down. They take the cat, they throw it up in through the roof space and it falls down the other side.
That's right. Yeah.
There's also a scene where he starts like, you know, blowing the fire alarm, and he basically says this was a test. Everybody's freaked out by this point, to which Stanley has a heart attack.
That's right.
He has a heart attack. It's absolutely insane. There's also there's so many things where Dwight is like went off crazy on it. Like there's one where there's a character in it called Phyllis. She comes to work one morning, and it turns out there's this guy outside in the parking area where he's exposed himself to her. So like she comes in and she's freaked out by this and all. Everybody's sort of like seeing a showcase or whatever, and like, you know, Dwight learns of the news, and he immediately jumps down the flight of stairs and runs outside and starts looking for him, but he can't find him. To which he gets like a sweeping brush, like, you know, snaps one end of the handle off and then sharpens the end of it for like a spike. And he starts walking along the hedge and like spiking the hedge as if trying to catch it. He also then asks Pam, because Pam's a bit of an artist, she like, you know, she does some artwork and stuff. He says, can you send out some flyers, get Phyllis to describe this character to you, or this fella who exposed himself, and you draw an illustration of what he looks like, photocopy it out, put my contact name on it if he's seen. So she does it, and whenever she sends out the photocopies, he goes, is this really what he looks like? And she goes, yeah, that's what Phyllis described, and it's basically his face, and the writing on the thing says, if you see this pervert, call Dwight Schrute. So many good things. There was another instant where there was a first aid training, and Michael is like giving, like, you know, he's pressing down the dummy, so like there's a trainer saying, like, you know count to whatever, you know, heartbeats, whatever, and like, you know, work in the rhythm of like, you know, staying alive. And like he's doing that there, and he's saying he's being really bad at doing it, but like as he's doing that, Ed Helms' character Andy, he starts singing the song by the Bee Gees. One of the girls starts getting up and dancing, and the whole room's kicking off, like getting in funk, and they're not taking it serious. The girl says at the end of it, like, guys, come on now, you have messed this up. This person's dead now. To which Dwight comes in and he says, okay, so what's the procedure here? What do we do? And they says, well, you know, we've lost him. You know, he's died. The CPR wasn't given to him. And he says, well, is he an organ donor? So which somebody says, yeah, well, I believe, yeah. This, say for example, this person has an organ donor card. And he goes, right, lifts up his like trouser leg. He's got a knife strapped around it. To which he stabs open the dummy, and he says, we're salvaging organs. We have very little time to salvage these organs. Stabs open the dummy, and then actually carves off the face of the dummy and wears it as a mask. It's absolutely insane. You just need to watch the show. So
what do you want to do? Do you want to do a prequel, or do you want to do a...
I want to see, this is where it leads to, I just want to see Dwight become, you know, probably around the time after The Office sort of finished, you know, I don't want to do too many spoilers, but say for
You've
instance,
just spoiled the whole show.
well, he doesn't. He doesn't have to. You know, he can still be as he's working in The Office. Doesn't matter. It can just be like Dwight's spin-off while he's, you know, what's he doing in spare time when he's not working.
So it would
Yeah.
run
Yeah, 'cause
concurrent.
Karen-
Oh,
with
I
the-
can run
yeah.
concurrently, and he can reference back to things in The Office, you know.
Yeah.
So it's more or
Uh,
less going back to like, you know, what's he doing on that farm, like, you know, and, like.
What's he doing outside of the office?
Aye,
Yeah.
like there's so many ways Dwight can go. Like, I truly believe that's the way I'd like to go with it. Like, have him running at the same time as The Office. What's he doing in his spare time? Like, he claims to be like a mixed martial artist and stuff. Like, obviously he's got all these arsenal of weapons and stuff. And yeah, he's such an interesting character. There's so many ways you could go with him, and I think that's the way I would roll with him. I would like to see him in his own spin-off show because, as I've described there, he's just
Sounds pretty good,
a,
alright.
a special kind of person.
For a special type of man, Vesty.
Thank you very much, David. I take that as a compliment.
Aye. Right, who wants to go next then? Tom? Dev?
Suppose I'll jump in next.
Good man, Dave.
Dev, you've barely talked. You look like a tired man today.
Are you tired, Dave?
You tired, Dev?
Not too bad. Not too bad. High energy.
It looks like it too.
Well, for mine, I've decided to mix it up a wee bit, and I went for Vegeta from Dragon Ball Z.
Ooh.
Oh my god. Yes.
Oh.
Yes.
We were sort of trying to make sure that we weren't doing the same TV show or characters, obviously. So Christopher earlier informed us that he was doing what did you say?
Animated show.
Animated show. So
Aye.
I never.
I was
even thought
interested.
something like
I was interested to hear where you went with it, and Vegeta
Aye.
might be my favorite Dragon Ball character. So.
I went straight in for Vegeta. A bit of background on Vegeta. He's obviously the prince of all Saiyans. Is the Saiyan planet, planet Vegeta,
Yeah.
was destroyed. Somewhere before you actually meet him in Dragon Ball Z,
Mhm.
and then he was sort of traveling around with Nappa and Raditz for a while, and landed on Earth. Obviously, in Dragon Ball Z, Goku's the main character. Vegeta is sort of a side character. He's the second strongest warrior in the universe behind Goku.
Yeah.
He just, he spends his whole arc in the show sort of trying to catch Goku and like sort of reach the same power level as Goku and things like that there.
Yeah,
Um,
Vegeta's a cool character.
oh,
Vegeta's the best.
Vegeta is the best. I'm a
Oh, you're
bit
a
of a Piccolo
You're a
man,
Piccolo?
like, but I
Why
love
can't we do
Vegeta
a
too.
Piccolo?
Because Vegeta's much more interesting.
Fair point, okay.
Plus, you kind of see a lot of Piccolo's life.
You
like
do,
in Dragon
you
Ball
get a
Z,
wee bit
but
of
you don't
Namek
get
and
to
all.
see a lot of Vegeta's before he arrives or, anything like that there. Plus, Vegeta is sort of everyone's second favorite character.
Yeah.
Or, I think in the Western audiences, in plenty of polls, he's been voted as everyone's favorite character.
Mhm.
But in Japan, it's obviously still Goku.
Yeah.
They love their Goku.
Yeah.
But Vegeta's just a great character. But I've sort of two different ideas. I haven't decided which I want to go for. One of them is going to be sort of following Vegeta after the planet was destroyed
Yes.
and before he arrives on Earth. So it'll be following him and Nappa and Raditz, following them sort of doing missions and destroying planets, things like that. There. It'll basically be you'll have Nappa will be Vegeta's muscle, like his bodyguard.
Yeah.
You'll
like
have
he was.
Raditz, like he was in Dragon Ball Z. Raditz will be the comic relief. So throughout it, because he's a lower sort of level than
Yeah.
their Nappa and Vegeta,
Mhm.
and he's like a low-born Saiyan, and sort of the only reason he's with them is because all the other Saiyans are dead. So
Mhm.
he's the weakest out of them, and so he will sort of be there to be the comic relief. There'll be a lot of him getting mocked by Nappa and Vegeta.
What do you call him? He'll be the little ball guy. Little ball.
Krillin.
He'll be the Krillin
Yeah.
of the show.
Aye, in original Dragon Ball, Krillin kicked ass.
So did Yamcha.
It's a pity too because Raditz is such a cool character. I like Raditz.
I like Raditz. but you
Raditz
don't
is
see a
like
lot of
really.
Raditz.
He's over with the fans.
Raditz is the one that landed first.
Aye, the
Yeah.
very first one to land, and then after that it was
I
Nappa
have
and
some
Vegeta came
controversial
together.
Dragon Ball opinions too, so I'll leave
But-
them to another time.
I think
Right,
basically the first story of mine would be sort of to follow them three, like sort of as rogue Saiyans,
Yeah.
sort of traveling around the galaxy, making a profit off basically what Saiyans do. For anyone who hasn't watched it, is they're sort of mercenaries for hire, and they go to planets, and they basically clear the planets out. So you send a Saiyan to a planet or a couple of Saiyans, depending on how powerful the warriors on the planet is, and they'll go onto the planet, just completely demolish it, kill everybody, and then
Yeah.
the planet will be ready for someone else to take over and inhabit.
Mhm.
So that's sort of what the Saiyans do. So you'd be sort of following them around, sort of watching Vegeta sort of gaining the start of his humanity and things before he jumps into the show, and it'll just be I following them around, traveling the universe, doing all sorts of dastardly things, and
Aye.
but it'll be a cool show. That's sort of one of the ways I've went. But the other way I was considering would be in like a Cowboy Bebop type feel. If any of you ever watched Cowboy Bebop,
Oh yes.
So-
I am loving this.
it would be like a
I'm gonna pretend like I know what you're talking about.
So-
A little bit lost myself. I'm not gonna lie.
I remember we were about to-
Oh, Tom, you got me.
I'm
You got
following
me.
you. I'm following you.
But
I'm following you.
so it would basically be Bulma, who's Vegeta's wife, obviously.
Yes.
So throughout Dragon Ball Z, Vegeta basically, he sort of becomes more and more humanity, like through his arc. He starts off sort of hating
starts off
everyone,
evil,
and
pretty
then
much. He squares off the bad guy,
and
and
then
pretty
sort
much.
of flips pretty much, and then he ends up, getting together with Bulma, and they have a child together, and he ends up sort of quite
Trunks,
liking
isn't
his Trunks.
Yeah.
Aye.
He ends up quite liking his life on Earth. So I reckon it would be great if you had Bulma, Trunks, and Vegeta all sort of traveling around the universe in like a ship, getting into sort of different adventures and things like that. It could be you could even center it around, maybe some new information has came that Vegeta's found out that what happened to planet Vegeta, it wasn't actually Frieza that destroyed it. That maybe some new information comes out and he's trying to solve the mystery of what happened to his home planet, who killed. Basically, like, he's a prince.
Yeah.
So it's like, who killed all his subject, who destroyed his home planet, who killed all the Saiyans, basically.
Mhm.
So it could be him sort of traveling around, getting into different sort of missions and things, trying to figure that out. It could be him, going from planet to planet, fighting all the best fighters in the universe, and sort of obviously trying to solve the mystery
Yeah.
of what actually happened to the planet would be the way I would go. But Vegeta's basically an anti-hero. Like, people...
He turns into Stone Cold Steve Austin.
Aye. Like, he's never a good guy,
No.
but he stops being a bad guy.
He was an evil guy, followed by like a good guy,
middling
and,
guy.
he's on the right side.
He's on the right side. He's just not, he's no Goku. Like,
No, he's not. He's not a.
but he's
not
a
an
much more,
actual good
much more interesting character. Like the whole him being the anti-hero, and then obviously anyone who watched the original Dragon Ball and Dragon Ball Z as well knows that Bulma's a genius.
Yeah.
She's the daughter of the people who own Capsule Corp.
Yeah.
And she basically builds all of the spaceships, and she's basically a rocket scientist. Like,
Yeah.
she's a genius. Like, so you had a Vegeta and her traveling around with obviously Trunks as well, who could be a bit of the comic relief, but as well Trunks is a great fighter.
Yeah.
And you could have a lot of training montages with him and Vegeta, and
Yeah.
Trunks
you
is
know,
a badass character. Yeah.
Vegeta trying to train him, because Trunks has sort of spent a lot of time with like Gohan and
And Goten.
Goten
Yeah.
and Goku and things, and Vegeta obviously wouldn't like him. Being that nicey, the way Trunks is.
Yeah.
So, it could be a lot of, comedy found in Vegeta and him having like training sessions and
Oh,
things like
yeah.
that there. And you could look into sort of Vegeta and Bulma's relationship if you want that way too, and getting into all sorts of different things.
Not something that the show itself ever really focuses
No,
on.
like you see a lot of like Chi-Chi and Goku sort of relationship in the show,
Yeah.
but not a lot of Bulma and Vegeta's, bar a few sort of throwaway lines and different scenes.
Mhm.
But I think it would be a very good one. Like, that in the first movie, like, the first one I pitched with him traveling around with Nappa and Raditz, he would be more of a bad guy, like more of a villain.
You could follow
But-
it the whole way through. Is what you could do for that show. Like you could follow it into. You could, as
Aye.
best he was sort of pitching for his.
Like
You
could
could sort of
even-
run it along.
You could do like a prequel and then sort of skip a while because everyone knows what happens during Z because he's there.
Yeah.
And then go on till him and Bulma and Trunks' adventure after that. Like he could do something along those lines.
No.
But I like obviously in the first show he would be still sort of a villain. Of course, he's sort of starting to find his humanity. His planet's been destroyed. He's peeved off.
Mhm.
But he's trying to sort of get to the bottom of what
He's
happened.
a cool character, like, because he is that sort of evil good guy kind of thing. That
Aye. Like,
want-
and
want
they're
to hate him
popular
sort
at
of
the
thing.
minute. Like when you look at what do you call her getting her own movie, Harley Quinn, and
Yeah.
movies like Suicide Squad and
even the Joker movie.
even
too.
the Joker movie and things like that. Sort of anti-hero movies
Yeah.
popular at the minute, like
No,
or
that's
like
fair
TV
point, aye.
show.
Mhm.
So it would be. It would
Actually, it's a good point for mine too. To be fair, but we'll get to that after.
be and but in the second movie, like if you want for that, he would still be the anti-hero. And plus you could complete his arc that Dragon Ball and like Dragon Ball Z and Dragon Ball Super, where he sort of because he's always had it like like he's with Bulma and things like that, and Trunks, and you can see he's getting better and better, but he's still like his ultimate goal is to be the strongest fighter in the universe.
Oh, he gets so
You know,
peeved that like
that
Goku's
Goku's stronger
than him.
than him. Like if he loses to someone and then Goku goes out and beats him, he's
He's not happy.
no. So you can sort of have him like sort of forget about that and sort of realize, right, Goku's the strongest fighter in the universe. That's or even if you're doing a spin off, you could kill Goku off and then
Ooh.
carry on with Vegeta.
Ooh.
Japanese fans won't like that.
I'd
Or
be
you could-
happy.
Or you could just do something like, he finds something or he learns something that when, there's a character, because that's the one thing that irritated the living crap out of me with Dragon Ball. It's like, hold the bad guy to Goku's ready,
Yeah.
sort of thing.
Oh,
And that
aye.
was repeated with,
Yeah.
I didn't follow it as much as men and stuff, but I've watched enough of it to know it's literally repeated all the time. It's
The
hold
only
the
time,
bad
the only
guy.
time it wasn't Goku, it was Gohan.
Aye. So there could be some sort of like bad guy, evil character that Goku for some
and there's
reason
so many
or
times
another.
it should have been Vegeta that destroyed Cell.
Yeah. There's actually a video on YouTube where some guy has like edited it, and whatever way he's edited it,
Say edited it twice.
whatever way he's edited it,
Uh,
it looks like Vegeta has killed him. It's pretty awesome.
Like
Check out.
that fight scene between Vegeta and Cell, that should have been it. Like
Oh, yeah.
But
He
it's
just
all
let
it was
but
always
it's always
hold them off. The Goku gets here, sort of thing. So
yeah.
and that's irritating.
it was
But like
always
Vegeta's always like that conflict in him is real interesting too. Like part of him wants to sort of hold on to his old Saiyan life, and he wants to still be. It's all about power and how strong a warrior you are, and then sort of part of him sort of that human life, where like Bulma and Trunks, and they're constantly throughout the show, at heads. Like
Yeah.
sometimes he's just only focused on power and doesn't care about the family, and other times
Yeah.
it's just the family, and he sort of that
It's
conflict.
kind of
is-
weird that he goes with Bulma because Bulma's kind of smart and intelligent and all that, and he's Vegeta's a grumpy old arse, like.
But he's the most interesting character.
Oh, he is,
like,
definitely.
like I love Piccolo. Piccolo might be my favorite character. Him or Vegeta. It's between the two of them. But Piccolo's story, you see a lot, like most of his story.
Yeah.
You see sort of the birth of Piccolo, the rise of Piccolo,
Yeah.
the
You see
know,
Namek and all too.
and then at the end of it, he's sort of getting older, Piccolo, and it's like you sort of see
yeah.
the.
Piccolo gets a serious amount of exposure over the course of the series.
Like he gets obviously because he was in Dragon Ball and all too, but
Yeah.
you see much more Piccolo's arc than you do of
Vegeta's.
Vegeta's,
Yeah.
which is why I think Vegeta would be a far more interesting one to go into. Plus, it would be super popular, like 100%. Like,
Yeah. You could do something where there is a bad guy that comes into the Goku for one reason or another. I don't know, can't beat him, and then you could get Piccolo or you could get Vegeta over. One
you could
time,
even
like-
start it like if you are gonna kill Goku off, you could start it by someone killing Goku, and
Aye,
then
'cause, like,
Vegeta killing him.
Aye, and
Yeah.
you're not
Because
abided by
Vegeta-
being
But here's a
dead in
random
the show.
fact, because obviously Goku is the most powerful and all that. It's not really up for debate. But the amount of times that Goku and Vegeta have fought, Goku has never beat Vegeta.
Nope.
Not once.
Nope.
Ever.
Nope.
They fought the stalemates plenty.
Yeah.
And other things have started going on where it's had to end.
Yeah.
But not once has Goku ever beaten Vegeta. Vegeta's beaten Goku.
That's fact.
That is fact.
Fair enough.
But Goku has never beaten
You know,
Vegeta.
nefarious ways of doing it, like, but
Was that Majin Vegeta?
yeah, imagine, yeah.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
Blindsided him, but
but
it still counts.
I love Dragon Ball Z. It's one of my favorite shows of all time.
You've
I
got
have
a
a
tattoo?
Vegeta tattoo, literally Vegeta's royal symbol tattooed to my arm.
Yeah.
It's something I love, and Vegeta's a character I love, and he's the coolest character in the whole show, and deserves his own spin-off. Like,
Definitely. I would like to see a Vegeta spin-off because I couldn't finish Dragon Ball. There was just too much filler and not enough killer. You know it.
Come
You know it.
off it.
You
No,
know it.
no, no.
Come off it.
You know it.
No, this
Dragon Ball is the greatest anime ever,
It's not like.
and I will not have any bad words ever said about
I'll
it.
say plenty of bad words about it.
Well, it might not be like the original Dragon Ball might be better than Z. Like that's the only argument I'll let you have. Like,
So
or if you want to
repetitive.
throw Super in there, it might let you have that argument.
So
but it's all
repetitive.
Dragon Ball related.
So repetitive. But anyway,
I've never actually went down there Dragon Ball path. Like I've never actually seen
You're
it.
not really an anime type of guy at all.
Never really got too invested apart from maybe the likes of Pokemon. Like I think everybody was invested in Pokemon back in the day. Like but like Digimon was around then too, and like I never got into it because obviously I was comparing it to Pokemon, so I never got into it. But then
When we were all watching Naruto and stuff, you never really got into that either, did you? Or,
no, I don't know why. It's not to say I've tried it and didn't like it. It's just like I've never really had that sort of exposure to it,
Yeah.
which is a bit crazy, but
Attack on Titan's a good one to jump into, lad.
mhm.
I would jump into Attack on
Don't
Titan.
watch Dragon Ball. There'd be a bit where a guy runs down
Oh,
the
Dragon
road for
Ball,
about 27,000
You would definitely watch
episodes.
Dragon Ball, although it's a daunting task at this point because
Just
I've
watch
got them all
Dragon
on
Ball
DVD and between Dragon Ball, Dragon Ball Z, Dragon Ball GT, and now DragonAll Super, there's about 700, 800 episodes, or maybe more than that.
All I want to tell you, Bestie, is that there's a bit where he's running down a road and he runs about halfway down that road. And now this road run that he does takes up an ungodly amount of episodes, and then he falls off. And he has
Okay,
to
it's
go back
not
to
full
the-
episodes of him running down the road. You just
So-
flick back to him every so often to keep you up to date with his adventure.
If you want to skip all that, you can watch Dragon Ball Kai, which was adapted from the manga, and that basically shortens it down, so you don't go through all that.
All
filler. You
killer.
get
No, all
Dave,
filler, no
I don't
killer.
want to hear it.
Aye, Dragon Ball Z is literally the goat.
It's not like.
Then Dragon Ball slowly behind. I mean,
It's upsetting.
very
that
close
you,
behind.
You think that?
So much filler, like so much
It's
filler.
Not like
It's a bit mental that me and David David doesn't really like it that much. That I didn't really get into it. I tell you what else is a bit mental. Probably not that relevant so much to maybe Tom and you, Dave, but for Dave, apparently there was this story about a pitcher that had been sent to prison. Turns out, Dave, that it was actually framed.
That's terrible.
What the hell just happened?
Absolutely terrible.
Were you sitting?
You're listening to the Irish Games podcast. This has been a podcast all along, Dave.
We recorded last night, and Vesty was in strange form, and now he's just made one of the most horrendous jokes I've ever heard. Where did that even come from? Have you been sitting there not talking for the last 10 minutes while Kirby explained his pitch cooking on that joke? Did you
Maybe
write
not.
that before you came in?
maybe not. I just thought,
Needed a bit of setup, I
I'm
reckon,
going
but
to
I enjoyed
mute you
it.
for the rest of this podcast after what you just did.
Do you know what, Davey? Just let the podcast let it work its way in,
Well,
lad. That's
because
the,
Dave's already shat all over my hopes and dreams. Tom, you've coming back. How great would
I
it be
think
to
I-
spin off me?
Oh, I want that green lit straight away.
Yeah.
I would love to
Which
see
one
that.
would you prefer? The
Um,
Raditz Nappa Vegeta one or the Vegeta Bulma Trunks one?
It's
Cowboy Bebop style?
it's close, man, but I'd go for maybe the Cowboy Bebop style one. I
Aye.
think that would be a cool wee adventure sort of style, like more akin to like Dragon Ball rather than like an action one like Z. But
Aye.
I would definitely prefer maybe that one. But
That's
the
good.
one that Raditz and Nappa, that sounds great too. I would watch the shit out of that.
Well,
Aye.
fair enough. I just I'm a wee bit weird with Dragon Ball, but do you want to hit us then, Tom, with your?
Yeah,
Idea?
mine's like probably heading down a more serious route. Definitely not going to get as many laughs probably as we got out of Bestie's pitch. But
Mike, I enjoyed my wee pun as well, lad.
my TV side character is Clay Morrow from,
Yes, fair enough.
yeah.
Yeah, okay.
from Sons of Anarchy.
Yes.
The working title for the show would be, because Kirk Suter, the show creator, he wanted to go ahead and make the first 9
Mhm.
after Sons had ended.
Yeah.
We were all buzzed for that. Do you mind like the excitement we had
Aye.
going? Like,
Yeah. Oh, well, Sons of Anarchy's great. Like.
Yeah, it's very good.
we're all fans of the show, by the way. But I would go for the title Redwood Original,
Aye, that's fair
Yeah.
enough. That's a good title. Like.
Yeah.
just to make it a wee bit different and make it my own.
Have any of you watched Mayans yet?
No,
Mayans is
watched it,
good.
no.
Mayans is good, man. It sort of runs slightly parallel with
Yeah.
Sons of Anarchy, but it's real good, man.
because it's got their president Alvarez.
He's in it. Yep,
Mm.
makes appearances. There's also other wee cameos from
Sons, guys.
other members of the Redwood chapter
Aye.
that
Yeah.
appear in it.
It's a good wee interlink, like.
I'm just gonna start off like I sort of did a wee bit of casting there, like fan casting. Now it's not that many characters, but this would be like the main characters of
Yeah.
the show. So you've got John Teller, who again is more of a side character. I would like to keep John Teller, like Jax's dad, a side character,
Okay.
because I think he's better in that role rather than the main,
Mhm.
which is why I went for
Plus,
Clay.
we've already had the story.
You kind of know John's story a wee
Aye,
bit.
but even I like you've already had that sort of family in a
Aye.
and like it's a different take.
Aye,
to
it's a
go with
different.
Clay.
Yeah.
It's something outside the Teller bloodline. you know,
Aye,
that kind of way.
yeah.
Yeah.
But I would cast Christian Bale as
Okay.
John Teller
Right.
because I think the legacy that Sons has left, that if they were to do like this kind of spin-off, they could pull in big actors like that there.
Mhm.
And I don't even think Christian Bale would be adverse to doing TV
Man,
because
the way things are going now, a lot of the big
Netflix and all that there.
a lot of big stars are in big, because the guy that I'm doing for my one, big star as well. So, but that's the way it's going now. There's a lot of big actors that are doing more TV now. It's kind of where the money's at, to be
Oh,
honest.
aye, TV's taking over, like with streaming services and
Yeah.
things like that. It's
You're having big actors in TV shows now. You used to have to go to movies to get them, but
like I used to go to the cinema all the time, and I rarely go to the cinema now. It's Netflix and chill. Like,
The
Oh, we better
landscape
chill on
has
Netflix, though.
changed. Penny Winston, he would Opie's dad. He'd be played by Norman Reedus from The Walking Dead.
I love Penny.
That's a
Love
great,
me some
great,
Penny.
You love a bit of Penny.
great bit of, yeah, well done, Tom.
And then Clay Morrow, obviously our main character. I would like him to be played by. Now this is probably going to receive a wee bit of backlash because he's
Can
just
we get a
recent.
time machine and get Kurt Russell in? Young Kurt Russell.
He could cameo. But yeah, I would like to go for David Harbour.
I'm not going to pretend like I know who that is.
Oh,
Stranger
that's-
Things.
Stranger Things.
Yeah,
aye.
he plays the cop in
Have you
Stranger
not watched
Things.
Stranger Things?
No.
Oh, Dave. It is the greatest show
Stay
on
on
Netflix.
point here.
And the reason I chose him was because David Harbour recently did Hellboy, and that was more or less he took over the role of Ron Perlman's character. So yet again, I'm having him come in and take over another.
I don't know who this guy is, but that sounds like a good idea.
Well, and then also I'm gonna have to show you a picture here because this is gonna be weird for people that can't see obviously what we're doing.
Okay.
But you know, to you guys, you'll see this. The girl that I want to play Gemma Teller is none other than Katie Seagal's daughter.
Right.
Her name's Sarah Grace White. She's from like Katie Seagal's previous marriage.
Yeah.
But this is a picture of her.
Jesus, she's identical.
Yeah.
Yeah, fair
So
enough.
I'd have her come in and play the younger Gemma.
Version of herself.
So that's the end of the casting. That's
good work, eh?
Yeah, that's good work, lad.
Uh,
I like
but-
the way you go depth and Vesty goes.
Vesty just
I'll tell you
recaps.
the entirety of this guy's character.
Are you not impressed?
We've had feedback about this. It's like Tom goes into like wee minute details and Vesty's like, "This is the guy."
How you did.
But you need different dynamics
do,
in
aye,
the
you do, you
podcast.
do.
Like I'm more serious.
I tend to like
Uh,
just I sort of get in a wee bit in, but like that's where you're good at because
Oh, aye.
you are like very geeky about it, like which
Oh,
is
yeah.
good. Like you probably
am.
are the geekiest in here, like.
Oh,
Aye.
definitely.
Dev's in the corner fuming. Look.
Come on, boys, get off it.
Look at me scream down the mic.
Oh, he's huffled like.
But anyway, as I said, the show's main character it'll be Clay, and it's going to focus on his return from military service, and the real beginning of his involvement with Sam Crow, and more specifically, it's going to focus around a sort of on-off friendship with John Teller.
Yeah.
Over the course of this series. The early aspects of the series, they're going to show Morrow's ambition to like rank, further himself up the ranks, get patched in, all that sort, get to the head of the table more or less. And then it'll show wee things like, him and John beginning the auto repair shop
Yep.
that you see in
Oh,
Sons. You'll actually start to see the beginning of the building of the actual clubhouse.
That'd
I
be cool,
think-
and the table and stuff.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
it'll be built slowly, gradually as
Aye,
like,
throughout
See,
throughout it goes
2-3
on.
seasons goes
Yeah,
on.
yeah. Like I would probably keep it a very short series, maybe 2 or 3 seasons at the most, maybe no longer than that. But it'll initially show the club following John's sort of guidance.
Leadership,
John had a different idea of what the club was meant to be. Less violence, more sort of just helping out in the community and all this sort of stuff.
Yeah,
Because
going legal.
yeah, he had came back from Nam with Penny, and they had like obviously their eyes were open to things. Like they didn't want any violence; they wanted more legit means for the club to operate.
I love Clay too. Such an interesting character.
Clay's cool, aye.
Like he's a dick, but there's some goodness in him too. Like.
That's you've said that now too with the Vegeta thing, and
Aye.
my character's like that as well. So
So basically, Clay and Penny, Penny and John would be working to make the club stay away from all the gun running, the gang violence, the trafficking of women, all that sort of stuff that obviously the other MCs like the Mayans and all have sort of dove head first into. At some point in the series, it probably would go back to Belfast, and I know that's going to make everybody shudder because
It was the worst series.
nobody liked the Belfast season. But I think it's important because it would be the time I would have Clay show us early sort of manifestations of vigilantism.
I sort of he gets back involved with the IRA and stuff, and he's kind of doing maybe
Yeah.
starting to undermine John and
Yeah,
stuff.
Aye, gun running and stuff,
gets a
aye.
taste for the violence, gets a taste for guns, you know, all the sort of nefarious things that the club eventually,
He leads them into.
yeah,
Just while we're on this, because like Sons is so good, but there's so much content as well. If this isn't your pitch, then by all means, I'll not go ahead with this. But like, was there a thing where they talked about it where whenever Tyler was like, you know, dying or whatever, or he died, but did he die off short notice, or what happened to him again? I can't remember his death.
Clay pretty much.
they sabotaged his bike.
Yeah.
And
Aye.
he crashed into, I think, just
40
a
wheeler
big-
or whatever it
Yeah,
is.
but he survived for a couple of days after, and then
Aye,
he died.
that's it. Aye, but I wonder, like, do you think I wonder, was there like an affair with Gemma before that started, or did that all happen after? But I'm asking
I've
that.
got
from
it all down here.
Well, then by all means, go on ahead.
Yeah, go ahead.
But yeah, as I said, you know, you'll start to see Clay becoming a wee bit more violent, and you know, obviously pushing to get further up the club.
Aye.
But then because of this, John starts to see this and is like, I don't want this, you know, to be a part of this MC. So he enlists Piney, because I would love Norman Reedus's Piney to be like really, you know, showcased in the show as well, because
Yeah.
I love
Oh, I
Norman
love
Reedus.
Piney. Like, he didn't get enough love in the
Exactly.
original
We
Sons
We seen
series,
Penny when he was
like,
sick, didn't we?
Yeah,
Penny
but now
was
we
kinda-
get to see a young Piney, you know,
Aye.
like strong, you know, like all that there.
Yeah.
Like, he never didn't have the breathing apparatus and
Aye.
Sons, like.
Penny was.
He was up in his wee cabin up on the hill, like, wasn't he?
Yeah.
An
An underutilized
So-
character.
Aye.
basically John would get Piney to watch over Clay, and during all this time Clay and Gemma have developed like a strong bond. It's not necessarily an affair at this point,
Right,
but they're
okay.
just very close. As you've seen in Sons, the women and the men are all very, very closely.
It's like a family anyway.
Yeah.
Mhm.
But basically Gemma, because of her trust of Clay, happens to let slip that Piney's watching him for, you know, these reasons, you know, to sort of monitor his actions and all that there.
Like the way that you've kept the Gemma completely screwing everything up by mingling
Yep.
the whole way through this.
Yeah.
Oh, aye, yeah.
She screwed up everything in Sons. She's screwing it up here again.
Aye.
Mhm.
Wife's
Uh,
trying
Kind
to
of want
do
to
the
start
right
Sons
thing.
again.
Oh,
I
aye.
actually started a rewatch there.
Watch Mayans, man, it's good.
I probably will, you know.
It's on the A-player, I think.
I've got a real resurgence for it now.
Mhm.
But basically, Clay becomes privy to this now because Gemma trusts him so much, she just lets it slip, you know. And then obviously Clay takes a more calm approach to things because he doesn't want to lose his place. You know, he wants to get patched in. He doesn't want to get ousted out of the club just yet. He
Yeah.
wants to, you know.
Aye.
Still be a member.
Yeah, so basically in an effort to gain more trust within the group, Clay then dials back some of the aggression, the foolhardy tactics, and it enables him slowly over the course of, like, say, a season to gain Piney's trust, who at this point is established firmly as the VP, the vice president of, so basically he's John Teller's right-hand man.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And it's through Piney's trust of Clay, as it eventually goes on, that it's Piney who recommends that they patch him in and bring him into a church meeting, and that's when he's inducted into
Mhm.
the actual
Yeah.
full Sons of Anarchy. He gets his cut and everything, you
Aye.
know, like, well, his proper cut.
Mhm.
But during all this time, unbeknownst to John, the affair with Clay and Gemma's began.
Oh, okay.
Uh,
Nice.
Clay's manipulated Gemma into thinking that John's lost his way.
Coming soft and
Yeah,
such.
he's
Aye.
became very his outright refusal to rise to the occasion against the enemy, Mayans, MC, etc.
Aye. Sort of
Yeah.
brainwashed them as to say, like, you know, we're like,
General Clay things.
Yeah,
aye, like, look at the rest of these gangs, we're a soft touch, you know,
Mhm.
man up sort of thing, like.
basically the Mayans, they're mounting pressure at the moment. They're basically trying to tip the scales into a full-on Sam Crow Mayan war, and this tips the scales in Morrow's favor, like in Clay's favor, because he's starting to slowly but surely gain more and more control over things,
Mhm.
whereas John's he's just off in a wee world of his own.
Aye.
He becomes he becomes kind of like a hippie style character. That sort of attitude, you kind of pick that up from, you know, Jack's reading his book. and
Jack
Yeah.
reading through his
Aye, just
memoirs
read
and
the
stuff,
book.
he becomes
Mhm.
like
Book.
really
Peace and
like,
love to all
peaceful.
men kind of
doesn't,
thing.
doesn't want the.
Yeah.
He wants it just to be a bike group and no illegal activity almost.
Yeah.
Basically, what we know, the Sam
Basically
Crow
what Jack's tried to do at this point as well,
Aye.
obviously too. Like,
Basically, what Sam Crow is in the series is everything John didn't want it to be.
yeah.
Yeah.
it
When
When
really
you
just-
get introduced to it.
Aye.
But anyway, John, he's became really disillusioned with the way things are going. The breakout of the Mayan War, the death of his youngest son Thomas, who
That's
died
right.
of that
Heart defect.
heart defect.
Aye.
So he's also became aware. I'm not sure how it would be found out. It would probably be found out like at a cliffhanger at the end of an
Yeah.
episode. Basically, he finds out about the affair. So
Aye.
all these things are going to, John's mind is just gone.
Aye.
He begins to write the manuscript that Jax finds.
Mhm.
And basically he details how the sons have lost their way and how he envisioned how they would find their way eventually if, say, his son
Mhm.
were to
Yeah,
take up
take
his...
over, yeah.
Gemma finds the manuscript in his desk drawer in his office, and Clay, realizing this is the time for a new form of leadership,
Yeah, a bit of a change.
yeah, he basically thinks John's gone. He no longer has the mind for this business. He just, he's not going to take us where the club needs to be. Basically, he tells Gemma to store it away in the garage, just hide it as if it never existed.
Mhm.
And with little to no support from the club, John plans to take a ride leaving Charmin.
Mhm.
Maybe not forever, but this is what leads to his eventual death.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So you take it right up to the end of the.
hmm
Okay.
Gemma and Clay, they plot, they sabotage his bike, he collides with a truck on the freeway, and he dies days later. And basically, after Teller dies, Clay uses this as a good excuse to quell the fighting, to basically stop the Mayan Samcro War, because the MCs might be at each other's throats, but they had mutual respect for like each other in terms of like their order, like their president, their presidents and stuff. So basically, they had just lost their president, so the Mayans back off, allow them to have a funeral, all that there, and Clay basically orchestrates like a peace treaty with them, which is why the Mayans aren't necessarily their real enemies come the start of
Aye.
Sons. Like Clay orders Gemma to destroy the manuscript, but instead Gemma has like a real real faint of heart moment, and she's like, I don't want to destroy this, so I'll just store it away, and she puts it away in the box instead rather than actually destroying it.
Mhm.
And then we all know what comes later. The opening of Sons, the very first episode, Jax goes into the garage and he finds it.
Mhm.
And just to sort of round it off, like cameos will include the likes of younger versions of Jax, Tara, Opie, but they'll more or less just serve as sort of like
Kids,
background
yeah,
characters.
yeah.
They wouldn't necessarily be at the forefront because they get their time in Sons.
Mhm.
That's basically it.
That's a
I
really
really
good
want to
pitch.
watch that too.
That's a real good pitch.
That's
You
a
need,
good
you
one,
need to get on to Kurt Sutter, lad. I tell you what, Gemma
I'd love to watch that show. I really want to watch Sons again now. You put me back in the Sons mood.
Oh, get on to it,
Gemma
man.
is
Get
so-
on to it.
I really enjoyed
Gemma
that.
is so manipulative. Like, she's one of the most
Twisted.
twisted.
And she's not even. She just does stupid shit.
Aye.
What do you call the police officer in it too?
Unser.
Unser, that's it.
He
He would have
Unser's-
been
I
another
love
interesting
Unser.
one too. Just a
Mhm.
two one
Aye.
too.
Boys, this guy will not stand out. He's just when we're on the topic of Sons, I have to actually just
Half sack.
I'll have to. I have to mention this guy because I love this character. I think he was really good for the series. Gemma's boyfriend Nero, Jimmy Smith
No,
plays him.
Nero is. He's
He's-
an incredible.
He's fantastic. He's in my top 3, maybe top for Sons character. He's so good. Like, he's just so. He's a cool guy. Like,
He's a cool. He's a cool.
I
guy.
like the actor who plays him too.
He would even been a good choice too. Like,
Nero, yeah, yeah.
But
Sure,
here,
it's maybe a
I
topic
really want
we
that
could-
Clay one to be made.
It could be a topic we could come back to here too. Like, I know I think we're going to do this for film as well, because I think that was what Dean was pitching that time. Sort of a film side character that deserves his own sort of time or whatever. But I think we can come back to it again.
It's always one
Leave
we
it
can
down the line for a bit. We can come back to it again. There's that many side characters that you could go with. Like,
Yeah.
we've just did about 3 out of Sons anyway.
So we're down to the last guy.
Down to the last one, boys.
Worst is last, is it?
It always seems to be that way, Vesting. Have you watched Peaky Blinders? Because I can't remember
Yes.
how many of you have watched Peaky Blinders.
No.
I've watched the
Yes.
I've watched the first 3 seasons.
I've watched the
First
first
three seasons.
2 or 3 seasons.
Right, you'll be okay. Well, Vesty and Dev, you'll know who I'm talking about. Tom, you need to watch that damn show.
I do.
You like Cillian Murphy too?
I do.
I actually
So-
love Cillian
Man,
Murphy.
so what's the friggin' show?
He's unbelievable in it.
I was meant to watch it, but then Tasha just decided, I'm just going to watch this without
What you doing, Tasha? What you doing?
I can be honest. couldn't stick to it.
What?
Like, I watched sort of the first couple of seasons, and it's not that I wasn't enjoying it. You know, when you just sort of stop watching something and never go back to it.
Oh,
It can't happen. It can't
I
happen.
thoroughly enjoyed it.
So it's like, you know, it's a good show and all. It's just one of them things, you know, when you sort of stop watching it and then
Yeah.
you never go back to it, and then it just never goes back on again.
Well, I was going to talk about a wee bit of what happens to this character a wee bit further down the line. So I'm going to have to try and swing around a few spoilers here for any men that don't want to. But anyway.
Oh god.
So I went with Alfie Solomons. Used to know him, the Jewish character.
He's played by Tom Hardy.
played by Tom Hardy.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
So yeah, I went with Alfie Solomons. So Alfie Solomons doesn't show up till season 2 in Peaky Blinders. Peaky Blinders is obviously a British TV show. It's about a gang that are based in Birmingham, and they sort of
Birmingham.
They
In
do
the early 1900s, is it?
in the early 1900s. There's 3 brothers that come back from the First World War, and they have experienced some stuff. They basically said that they should have died in the war, and that they're going to take every risk they can to basically make it to the top. They run illegal gambling, they take over race courses, you know, all this sort of stuff. This is what they start off as. It gets bigger and bigger and bigger.
Mm-hmm.
They encounter more sort of larger bad guys in the series. Obviously at the start it's very, very local. It's all based in Birmingham. The second series, which is the series that my character comes in, is when they make their move to London. So they've sort of secured Birmingham as their stomping ground for
Yeah.
all their illegal activities, and then they have obviously the sort of face of the company, you know, of being horse owners and things, and that's kind of what happens there. But they're running, you know, guns and 100 different things. The IRA's involved. There's a pile of stuff. These are they're Irish gypsies that live in Birmingham that are kind of doing.
I know about that much
Yeah.
of the show.
So in season 2, they make their sort of attempt to take London, as it were.
Aye.
And this is when you meet my favorite character in the show, which is Alfie Solomons, and that's who I'm going to be doing today. So
Mhm.
we first meet Alfie in season 2 after he sent Tommy a telegram. He's such a funny character. He kind of he controls every scene that he's in. For one, he kind of nearly goes a little bit Bane from the Batman, where you can't really make out what he's saying.
Mhm.
But it's kind of to disarm the people that he's really good with words, and he throws you off. He's a real sort of he's like a really deadly negotiator, and he's a gangster obviously himself. It's a weird dynamic. It's like a Jewish Cockney who's, you know, obviously Jewish people are very religious and stuff like that, but he's running illegal rum. He sells rum basically, and a whole other thing.
His character, Tom Hardy voiced him, like, he's very like croaky. It's like right, you know, it's like,
he's
you
got
know,
a Cockney voice, but he kinda,
it's real croaky.
even the way he looks in the show, he does look a wee bit Jewish. He's got a scraggly beard.
He's got the
wee-
cigar in too, doesn't he?
And,
Does he have a cigar?
He
No.
kind of smokes a wee bit, I think. I'm not actually.
I'm just picturing. I know who I can picture him because that's where I watched up to about season 3,
Yeah.
and he was coming into it at that point.
Uh-huh.
So am I.
So he sent Tommy Shelby, the main character, obviously played by Cillian Murphy, a telegram, and they meet in Alfie's bakery, as he calls it, which is actually a distillery where he makes rum. He makes certain jokes about we make all kinds of bread here and stuff of this nature, while there's just barrels and barrels of rum sitting around, white bread, brown bread, all this sort of stuff. It's a really good first scene. He's not in the show an awful pile. This is the thing. This is why I want a show about him. Obviously, he's not in the show an awful pile. He comes in from season 2. He's been in it every single season. I think there's 5 seasons now, 6 seasons, and he's in it every season. But he's maybe only in it. It's only 6 episodes long, so he maybe only shows up in 2 episodes, or for a 6 episode season. So it's there's not much of him. It's an iconic first scene between the two. They have negotiations on tackling Alfie's problem with Italian gangs, which is run by Darby Sabini. So there's the Jewish gangs and the Italian gangs that are running London at this time, and it's kind of funny. Like, they both have a mutual problem with the Italians are kind of running things. Alfie's in the middle of a war with them, and he's losing basically. So they both have a mutual enemy in this guy, Darby Sabini. Weirdly enough, Alfie went to school with him. There's a bit down the line where they meet, and they went to the same school together, and they take like jibes at each other and call each other all sorts of derogatory terms, that like wops for Italians, and I can't remember what he uses for Jews. I can't remember what Darby Sabini uses in it, but so Tommy and Alfie work together, and then there's like after a while he flips and calls a truce with Sabini, and there's I don't want to spoil it too much for you fellas if you ever decide to watch it, but
I must get back in that. Hey,
it's a good show. They have. He's a real treacherous character. He's like, he'll do anything to sort of make his way. He'll turn on anybody. You don't know what side of the fence he's playing.
Does anything to get ahead.
He's that sort of anti-hero character that we were talking about earlier. They have a second meeting after he kind of flips a wee bit in Tommy, which is even better. It's them two just sitting again in his bakery, and they're having a negotiation where they're working out percentages of, he's sort of like Alfie slaps a contract down in front of Tommy saying, you're going to give me 100% of your business. Tommy's obviously like, no, I'm not. I'm not going to do that. Tommy says that he's placed a grenade in his thing and that he'll blow the place to smithereens if he doesn't show back out. And he's really funny, too. The way he sort of, there's a guy in that scene that is sort of his right hand man that's basically shitting himself. And, he gets up and, like, slaps him, and he's like, you're acting like a child, and all this carry on. And then he, like, sits back down with him and goes back to the negotiation and all.
I maybe get mixed up with a character Hardy did or something else before. Is there something about his sexuality? It's a bit... Does he swing both ways or something, that character?
Alfie?
Aye.
No,
I must be getting him mixed up with somebody else.
Fair enough, okay.
No, I just came to me because there's definitely a character I have in mind that's similar to him, but it must be somebody else.
No, he's a really good character.
Sorry, this is what it is. If you've ever watched the movie Tom Hardy plays, where he plays the twin brothers.
Yes.
There's
the
one
Cray
of them.
twins.
Aye, for some reason I was thinking of him, and that's where I'm getting that from.
The Cray twins film's a really good film
brilliant.
too.
He does that same kind of croaky accent again in that film too.
The Cockney accent.
It's good. It's good.
He's good in every season. There's season 3. He sort of works behind Tommy's back with Russian contingent that's in this thing, and he commands every scene he's in. And like Tommy always sort of finds a way to get out of the situations that he's in, and he doesn't really back down to many people, and
he's a forward thinker.
Tommy's a forward thinker.
Aye.
And Tommy always gets his way out of things and stuff like that there, but Tommy doesn't really be intimidated by anybody, but he's intimidated by Alfie. Alfie's a great character. Like his presence on screen's class. He sort of, the way he talks, he goes off on like wee tangents where he's rambling about real weird things and stuff, There's a bit where he starts talking about shooting starlings and shooting at boats and stuff. He goes off on these like wee weird tangents, and people are sort of thinking like, what the hell are you talking about? But he's sort of confusing you enough to sort of get you in. He's working every side, there's some really good scenes with him, he's a really cool character. See, I don't want to spoil too much for you, but in season 4, there's an element with the American Italian mafia getting involved. It's actually played by the character that played the guy from Predator, the big nose, Adrian
Brody.
Brody.
Do you know, I actually think I've seen a particular scene with him and I think it's Tommy at like a table, and they're like sort of going through things or whatever. I happened to walk in and watch the scene, but I had no context of what was going on.
My favorite scene of the entire show is obviously this guy played by Adrian Brody. Is called Luca Changretta, and he's the sort of head of an Italian mafia family. And sort of this season's going on, and things are happening with them and the Shelbys that are quite, things are pretty bad. Like they're having sort of a war between each other and stuff like that. And all the while, you haven't seen Alfie, and then he sort of randomly appears to organise a boxing match between a gypsy's son and his nephew, and that's how he appears, basically. He starts talking about, like, I hear you've got problems with the Italians, and there's just a whole sequence where he's sort of cracking jokes and all that sort of carry on, but you're just waiting for the moment, because you know it's going to come. You don't know how it's going to come, but you're waiting because, like, the Changretta character, Luca Changretta, is a very dangerous character. You can tell that he's the most dangerous foe that, like, the Shelbys have come up against so far. Obviously, he's involved with the Italian mafia with all the connections. It's in the mid-1920s now, so it's the height of the mafia, really, at their power. And you're just waiting for, like, Alfie and him to have some sort of interaction.
Yeah.
It happens. It's the best scene in the Peaky Blinders, I think, in my opinion, anyway. It's a fantastic scene. They kind of have a back and forth. It's again Alfie in this scene. He's so good as a character because, like, Changretta comes in and he goes in a wee ramble about, I donate money to children that are born blind because my nephew was born blind, but the guy that's over the charity recommends that we spend half an hour every day with our eyes closed, sort of. And this is when he's meeting Changretta for the first time, and then he asks he's got his eyes closed at this point. And he's like, what time is it? The guy tells him the time. He's like, unfortunately, I have 1 more minute left, but you can begin. Sort of thing. So he's a really cool character. He takes over every scene that he's in. And I want, obviously, Alfie Solomon's story.
Right.
Is it going to be running sort of parallel, to?
It could be. See, the thing is, you don't know too much about Alfie. You don't know too much about his background. He was in the war. Everything in this film is centered around people that have served in the First World War. It's really heavily involved.
Aye.
You know, the Shelbys came back from the First World War, and we know that apparently there's a brilliant scene about performing stigmata on an Italian that Alfie goes into a ramble about. You know, he rammed a nail up his nose or something. He's also served in the First World War, and then obviously he's came back to Campton Town and developed the same way that the Shelbys did in Birmingham. So when you do meet him, obviously he's having trouble with the Italians. The Italians and the Jews are both trying to run London, basically. So you could go in there. That's where you could go in. Sort of Alfie has you could go into the building of Alfie's sort of empire himself. The sort of struggles with the Italians, the back and forths. You learn about the dynamic in which the sort of underground dealings work in London within the Peaky Blinders anyway. So it could then run alongside.
Yeah.
And there's plenty of schemes that Alfie gets into that, because he only shows up maybe 2 episodes, 3 episodes in a 6-episode series, but only on screen maybe.
It's a couple of minutes.
A few minutes maybe, aye. So there's plenty of goings on that happen throughout the show with the Peaky Blinders that you're just seeing wee glimpses of Alfie, but he's obviously doing plenty of work behind scenes.
Yeah.
Different things like that. That's that storyline in season 3 where he's kind of working with a Russian faction, sort of behind the Peaky Blinders' back. He's never on their side, actually, in all fairness. Like, he's always sort of working for himself, even though, you know, they're sort of a team at this point in the story and as far as it's went.
Yes.
But he's a brilliant character. He's like ruthless, exceedingly violent, completely unpredictable. You don't know where he's going, whose side he's working on. Completely untrustworthy. Hilarious, absolutely hilarious, with a brilliant use of language, but highly intelligent. So I want a bit about Alfie Solomons. I want an Alfie Solomons based series now that could run alongside the Blinders.
Even maybe leading up to
where
he's got to.
Yeah,
would be quite good.
The first, like as I say, you don't see him in season 1. He knows what's happened in Birmingham. Obviously, he sends a telegram to Tommy Shelby, but he's a brilliant character. His character's funny. Every time he's on screen, he nearly makes you laugh, even though he's being dead serious.
It's real dry humor, isn't it?
It's real.
It's real dry, like.
And he's really, really intense as well too.
Aye.
But
you don't know whether he's joking or whether he's actually dead serious.
No, like there's a bit where there's somebody like messing about, and he like busts the man beside him's mouth open and knocks his teeth out, and then tells him about like he'll be fine. He'll wake up, and when he wakes up, he can all laugh at you. Or he'll laugh at your really funny joke or something. You know? Like he obviously wanted like discipline. Yeah. Somebody made something like a smart comment, and he knocked the guy's teeth out beside him. So he like obviously that guy's gonna wake up, remember that he, you know.
Yeah.
And he was like, you can laugh. It's your really funny joke or whatever. But he's a really intelligent character. You don't know what side he's on. He's on the Italian side at times. He's on the Blinders side at other times. He served in the war, much like the Blinders, and he had a come up as well, like the Blinders. Obviously, he set up his own rum business in Campton Town. So it could start the same way as the Peaky Blinders show has started, with them coming from nothing, running alongside, and then up to the point where they meet where he gets involved with the Blinders. And then it could go on. It could go on alongside the show of the Peaky Blinders, because it would be, you know, behind now coming out. Right. So it could, like, you know, there's 5 seasons, I think.
I think you're right. I think there's
5 seasons of the Blinders out already. So you
another scheduled as well.
Another scheduled as well, yeah. And it could run along. You know, it could be a couple of seasons behind, but could be running along with things that have happened with the Luca Changretta problem and the Russians and all the rest. He's a brilliant character. He's so funny and just completely unhinged. And I highly recommend you all sit down and watch the Luca Changretta scene where he meets him, because it's absolutely fantastic.
I've been meaning
to jump back into Peaky Blinders.
I've been meaning to get back in it because Peaky Blinders is brilliant. It's like, as I said earlier, I binge watched a few shows and when I was at uni, and Peaky Blinders was one that started,
Uh-huh.
but I think it
Because
was
it's short too, man. Like, it's only 6 episodes a
it is.
season.
It's not like Sons where you have
And
20
those are
episodes.
long, aren't they?
They're 50-55 minutes at,
Oh,
general.
But even the likes of Sons of Anarchy, if you were to start it, like it's 18,
It's a
20
slog.
episodes. It's a slog, and there is, 18, I say 18, 20 episodes.
There's
per
30
season.
episodes in this. Like, that's it. There's-
It is very good in that regard.
And it's fast. It's fast paced. There's no wasted time in it. The way there's some episodes, especially with like Sons of Anarchy and other shows like that, that
Yeah.
Two
you
or
could
three.
you could go without watching an episode at times.
Yeah.
But Peaky Blinders is fast, very very fast. The soundtrack's brilliant.
Aye.
The sort of griminess, the grittiness. That's a brilliant. He's a real gritty character too. He's like, you just have to see him. Just the way he dresses, the way he carries himself. He takes over every scene that he's in. Like Tommy's a very brilliant. There's a lot of brilliant characters actually in the show. Tommy, his brothers,
Mhm.
some of the bad guys.
Plus Hardy's a class actor too. Like,
But when he's playing Alfie Solomons, Alfie takes over absolutely every scene that he's in, and he's my favorite character in the show, and he doesn't beat in it enough, so I wanted Alfie Solomons.
That's fair enough. I saw that. It's a real good show, and I mean, like one of the episodes I remember very well is like the one where they go to the races.
Yes.
There's a lot of even the first series, like there's like scenes where there's explosions all over the place. It's fast paced, it's furious, it's very intense, and Cillian Murphy obviously plays that role down to a T. Like he absorbs.
Only
you,
one
like.
bad thing about it is the actor that was in Jurassic Park plays the bad guy in the first season. What's the guy's name, Tom? You probably know him.
Sam
The main character.
Oh
from Jurassic
yeah,
Park.
Sam Neill.
Neill.
Sam Neill
Yeah,
plays
it was
an
Sam.
Ulster Unionist in the first series, and his accent's a bit rough.
Is
But
it?
that's a wee touch rough. But his character is actually very good.
Yeah.
He's
It's
he's
kind
like
of
a-
weird because that man's actually Irish. Like he is legit.
But he's
like,
New Zealand or something, isn't it? Or he's
well, I know he was born to Irish parents. Now whether he was born over here
Aye.
or maybe born elsewhere in the world, I don't know.
Well,
but
he's
he
got a
is.
better grasp on it than some people have now, to be honest. Like, but I mean, it's a bit hairy.
It's tricky doing our accents.
Our accents are cat.
I forgot all about him being the villain in the first season.
But he is a good villain.
He is.
He's a cop that was obviously here.
Are you telling me Dr. Alan Grant is a bad guy?
Aye, he is surely. But no, it's a really good show. The bad guys in it are really, really good. It sort of progressively builds up. Obviously, they sort of have one bad guy in the local area to start with. They sort of get rid of him. Obviously, they move on to bigger and better things. And you would like it too, Dave, because it gets a wee bit political. There's sort of communism in it and a pile of mental stuff. And there's
Dev wouldn't like a bit of
there's,
political
there's,
talk.
there's the whole Russian Revolution theme running through it.
Oh, I
at all
enjoyed
times.
what I watched of it. It's just, one of them things where you're watching the show and you're liking the show, and for whatever reason you don't stick it on for maybe a
Do
week
you know-
or so, and then
then
you
it
just
falls
never go
out.
back to it.
Do you know
It's
what
damn
happened?
good, man. It's one of my favourite shows on TV, and Alfie's a brilliant character.
I think what happened with me was I was watching it on Netflix and they hadn't the latest season up on it, so that's where I stopped off. Then they did get it up, but it's kind of like that point. It's been like months that you see, and you're kind of like, oh, I need to get into it, but you never get
And
into
then
it.
you just start again, and
Aye.
then you watch it, and then you never do.
I will think season 1's based in Birmingham, season 2's London, season 3's London, and then season 4 they end up having to go back to Birmingham. But there's a pile of stuff. They start branching out into the United States. The sort of Russian Revolution's going on at this period. All the political stuff. It's actually quite like historically quite good too. There's like the sort of the rise of communism in Britain and the worries of that there. In season 5, the most recent season, which was quite good too, there was a guy in it, Oswald Mosley, who I think I might be Googled this now, I could be wrong, but he was actually the leader of the fascist party. It's led into the sort of rise of fascism now as well, so it's into the 1930s as well now. There's the rise of like Hitler, Mussolini, all that sort of carrying on.
Yeah,
and this guy's the leader of the fascists, and he's one of the bad guys in the latest series. But it's damn good, and you would like it for that sort of carry on too. There's the IRAs in it. There's all that sort of revolution going on. But it's a really good show. But Alfie's one of them sort of bad guy, good guy characters. You kind of
Must get back in there, because I kind of remember Tom Hardy's character, but
no.
barely.
Aye.
Do you know what's very ironic about Tom Hardy for me is I keep being told just how great of an actor he is, and I'm not doubting that fact, but everything that I've ever seen him in, he's always covered up. Like his face is covered up by some apparatus or mask or something.
Like
Because the films I've seen him in is Mad Max Fury Road.
Mad Max, yeah.
Yeah, you've seen that film. Like he just has like this big
And he does
iron.
And what do you
Yeah,
call your
the thing-
doll? She's the main person in it, really.
Charlize Theron.
Mhm.
And then Dark Knight Rises, he's
Mhm.
got the Bane mask, and the
What's he
there's
sound
a
like, Tom?
million-
I'm bird.
And then even Dunkirk.
The detonator.
The most recent film I seen him in was that Dunkirk, and he's in he's an RAF pilot.
Yes.
But he's got one of them breathing apparatuses that all them pilots wear, and for the most part you can't even hear him.
I tell you what, just on
that one you were talking about, what's the name? Is it Legend or something?
The Cray Twins.
The Cray Twins
Cray
one.
Twins. Aye.
It's a movie about the two London gangsters that were twins, but it's really good in it because he has to play obviously two twin brothers. It's very good.
I have seen him in Inception, but you should probably all watch that too, and he's not featured in that
No.
all that much. He's not even. It's more sort of.
Going back a wee bit, I think it's 2004 Layer Cake. Like Daniel Craig was the lead character in it.
He played Bronson too, didn't he? He's watched Bronson. Bronson was really good as well.
I hear it's good.
Yeah, he's damn good. I like.
Do you know why like movie actors sort of have like traits like is it Sean Bean that has like he's killed off so many times?
He's killed off.
Do you reckon there's a wee thing in Hardy's contract where like they have something to alter his voice or like something's over his face where he does that sort of like because that's like 3 or 4 movies that's happening now. Like.
Maybe it's a
He was
small
in.
fetish.
He's actually in. You would like it now. I know it's only one that you haven't seen, lad. Vesty, sorry. The
The Gay
other,
Ritchie.
the other Gay Ritchie film, Rock and Roller.
I need to get around to seeing
He's
that.
good in it. He actually plays a gay fella in it too.
Does he?
Yeah, he's like a real hard fella, and he comes out to one of his friends is gay, like he comes out gay in the film, as a part of the plot.
I need to watch that film.
That Gay Ritchie one's like these are Gay Ritchie's obviously got Snatch and Lock, Stock as well, but that Rock and Roller one's underrated. It's pretty good as well.
I must get around to watch them.
I haven't
I
got
love
seen The Gentleman yet, but
The Gentleman's really good, and obviously the first Lock, Stock is Gay Ritchie's debut film. It's one of my all-time favorite films.
Gay Ritchie's good. Like.
But that was good tonight, lads. I enjoyed that.
That was good.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it was.
Good fun.
Shout
Like,
out to Big Dean for the good ideas.
good shirt,
Yeah.
Big Dean.
We're gonna do it. We're gonna definitely do it, Dino. For if you're listening, you better be.
Oh, he'll be listening.
We're gonna.
the writer of Dragon Ball? Hopefully he's listening.
Akira? Oh no, I don't want Akira to be listening because Akira Toriyama, I hate you.
So it was good. It was a good shout, Dean. We're gonna do it again for movies at some point, maybe further down the line. We've done a few movies recently, so we decided to do it for TV first off.
Aye.
But we've got good shouts from a few other people. A few other of our mates have thrown in good shouts, so we're gonna get around to
requests out there.
a few good ideas.
We've
too.
actually a fair amount in now, and it could take a while to get them all done if we were to do all them.
Aye,
Like.
definitely. Like
I keep firing them in. Like.
Yeah.
Plenty
So-
on the back burner.
It's been we're an hour and 16 in. This went a wee bit long, but it's been good tonight, lads. I enjoyed that. We have had our first sort of full week of proper releases. We sort of in the first week obviously we released everything at the one time, so people would have enough to listen to. This week,
schedule you'll have on a Monday we'll be putting up our nerd culture.
Yeah.
On a Tuesday it'll be our American sports section,
Mhm.
and on a Thursday it'll be football, and that'll be every week.
yeah. If there's maybe another one, wee odd one like we did the extra for the boxing this week, there could be maybe the odd one of them thrown in every now and then.
Mm-hmm.
If there's something a bit
If
extra
If
happening.
there's something a bit extra happening, but yeah, it's been a good first week, people.
Thanks very much for the support and love.
Yeah, we've appreciated it.
It's been good.
If you
Like.
could follow us on Podbean, because we noticed ourselves, we followed ourselves on Podbean, like the sad people that we are. If you follow us, it'll give you an update as
On
and
the
when
releases.
something is being uploaded and released, so you don't miss anything.
Same way on YouTube, if you subscribe and hit the notify bell, and anytime a new video comes up from the Irish guys, you'll be notified right away.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You don't want to miss any of our great content, people.
Aye. We're still waiting on Spotify and iHeartRadio to get back to us. So hopefully that'll be in the process pretty soon. We're up on Instagram, obviously, at the Irish Guys, Twitter as well.
Mhm.
I actually, fellas, I created my own singular Twitter. If you want to do that for yourselves too.
I must do that.
Aye.
Get round to that eventually.
So give us a follow there. Follow us on Podbean for the time being, and YouTube as well. It'll keep you up to date. Drop us likes and comments if you've got any good ideas yourselves. And say goodbye, fellas.
Goodbye, fellas.
I was coming.
Yeah, always. Tom.
Like, comment,
Farewell.
subscribe.
Yeah. Okay.
Good luck.
Thank you very much, people. Cheers.
Good luck.